is Rogers TV.
The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hey everybody, it's Tobin from Tobin Tonight, but you probably already know that because you tuned in to watch me, not necessarily me, maybe the actor guest that we've had on. That's cool, that's fine. It is November 1st, people, so I will say happy November 1st. Countdown to Christmas. Okay. Maybe not quite yet, but it's only like 50 odd days to Christmas. Maybe you want to get that shopping done. I remember when I was younger, I used to listen to like Oz FM, 99.1 Hits FM. I think it's 99.1 Hots FM now, or Hot 99.1. I don't even know anymore. But they would always tell you like the countdown to Christmas. And as a kid, I thought that was entertaining because I was like, oh, cool. They're telling me how many days till Christmas. But as an adult, you're probably like, stop. Just no. Just, I don't need to know. It's like, you're giving me more anxiety because I think I got so many days to shop and I don't have that many days to shop. And it's just, it's all over the place. Okay. I know that's not what you came here for. You didn't here to come see me test out new material or anything like that. And if that was my material, you're probably going to like, no wonder this guy sucks. Understood. With that being said, we have a great guest on tonight. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just making sure. I think you'll enjoy it. We've got John Stamos from Full House, Fuller House, Big Shot, which is now on Disney Plus. They're into season 2. He's going to talk a little bit about that. I do get in a few Full House questions, and we do talk a little bit about Bob Saget, the impact. Okay, where am I going there? The impact that Bob Saget has left on his career. It's kind of interesting because he mentioned that they weren't really friends when they started Full House. He came from an acting side, Bob came from a comedy side, and they just grew to appreciate each other so much so that they stayed in contact all throughout when Full House was done. And he actually, I guess, honors Bob in a way in season 2 of Big Shot. But listen, I'll let him explain all that because me explaining it doesn't probably have the same impact because you're like, dude, I came here for Stamos. You're taking up a lot of time. Can you just get to Stamos? And you're absolutely right. So why don't I just zip my lip and I will cut it out, and you might even see a special guest in this episode. Ooh, why did he do that for? Let's find out together, shall we? Oh, this way. Okay, just play the music. John, the first thing I really want to do to start off is welcome to the podcast.
Happy birthday to you. It's Tobin's birthday today. Happy birthday, Tobin.
Yeah, 31. I want to ask you, 31. Do you remember what you were doing at 31?
Did you get my gift?
Yeah, it was hair supplies, right?
That's funny, but it was
Oh man, no, well, wrong address. I did hear a good time next door though, so maybe
that was. Oh, are you in Newfoundland now?
I am in Newfoundland now. Yeah.
So I did a movie there years ago. I'm sorry, I'm hijacking your question, but we'll talk.
No, go for it. Go for it.
I don't remember 31, but I'd have to. It was a beautiful movie about. It was one of the first movies about gay marriage, and it was made by these friends of mine, Neil Marin and Craig Zaden, who did some really great movies all the way, great musical stuff too, but I can't remember the name of it. John Stamos. It's something with marriage in it. Marriage.
Okay. How did you find your time in Newfoundland?
I love the people. I love the whole thing. I'm trying to think of what it was. I remember we went fishing. James Brolin played my dad, and that was cool.
Okay.
We were on a boat, and it was a little rainy for summer, but I have great memories of it. I really did
Have you ever had like, so for the Canadian references, like have you ever had, say, like a beaver tail?
Is that sexual?
No, no, it's
Oh,
like it's a
okay.
snack that they give you like I go
Oh.
like it's a skate like if you go skating, have you got
Mhm.
you obviously I'm sure you went ice skating at some point, but like skating on a canal here in like say Ottawa, they give you
Uh-huh.
like these it's like a big sugary treat of a beaver tail. So it's like and it's like fattening, but at the
Yeah,
same point it's like
so
I don't know,
good.
it's very Canadian, I feel.
Is it really a beaver tail? Like a real beaver tail?
No, no,
No, okay.
no.
Yeah,
I
all
would
right.
I would be kind of disgusted if that
Yeah,
was the case where it's just like,
yeah.
hey, that is like one thing that we have here. We have beavers, and you're ruining the
You're
very
ruining the
thing.
beavers. You're
uh,
funny, Tobin. You're really sharp.
I try to be now, not sharply dressed, just sharp up here for the time that
Saget, commandeered your show with him for the most part. It's hard to, but I'm really happy to be here, and I'm so glad that it's your birthday. Happy birthday! I wish I just saw it was. I would have sent you something.
when you started off, you were working in, I believe it was like your dad's restaurant or your dad owned a
Mhm.
business. But
Yes,
like,
yeah.
a lot of parents, when you mention something like I want to be an actor or a musician,
Mhm.
some of them will steer you towards it because then they're like basically like let him try it so that he doesn't come back to us in like 30 years and say you never let me do it.
Right.
But it seemed like your parents were kind of like, sure, like go for it. Because I read that you were like enrolled to go to a university or a college, and then like the first semester you were kind of like, not for me. Like I'm gonna try this acting thing, and then
Uh,
like maybe it was like 3 weeks, maybe 3 months. Then you had like General Hospital.
well, I didn't know to back up. I didn't get that far with the college. I wasn't
Okay,
very what's the word I'm looking for? Academical. That's not even a word, but see, that tells you.
astute.
Um,
No.
yeah, I wasn't any of that. I wasn't book smart. I remember thinking in school too. It's like, what? Why do we learn? I don't need to cut a frog. I don't want to be a frog cutter. Well, what are we doing? And it was like, or trigonometry or something. And it was like, well, this is yes, maybe you'll never use trigonometry, but it'll teach you how to learn things. Well, why don't you teach me how to learn things I'm going to use in life, like dealing with women, balancing a checkbook, dealing with anxiety or fear or depression or whatever people go through. So I didn't get very good grades, and I was working so you were saying like parents, my mom was go for it. Love,
Okay.
I'll, just, you could, if you want to do it, do it. If you can dream it, you can do it. Disney says. My mom wasn't Walt Disney, but she did have a mustache. No. But so I was like Saget. Sometimes I channel him with these jokes.
Yeah.
But my dad was a little more leery about it. And I was working at his restaurant. He was building, he had 2 restaurants, then he bought another. So there were 3 fast food places. It's sort of like the Greek, like you see in Saturday Night, Live, or something. Cheeseburger thing.
Yeah.
And but he was building the business for me to take over. So he wanted me to go at least get a business degree at the local college by our house. It's called Cypress College. And I couldn't find the room that you sign up for, the sign up
Oh,
room.
okay.
Yeah. So I didn't go. So I never made it, but I was still working for my dad, and he was like, that's it. Next semester, you have to, I'll take you down there myself if I have to. You've got, and I thought, I got to get on TV. How do I get out of this college thing?
Yeah, yeah.
And I auditioned for General Hospital. Yeah. And it was one of those crazy, I've talked about this in the past where I say I auditioned on a Monday, got a call back on a Tuesday, shot out on a Wednesday, and it aired 2 weeks later. And I thought that was just sounded nice. But now that I'm writing this book, if you would have told me, it's called, I'm going through all my old calendars, and that's exactly how it happened. And I'm literally a dorky kid from Orange County. I was gawky. I know people say that all the time. Like, I was such a nerd in school, but I was. But I was just coming out of the cocoon. I had like one caterpillar leg out, before the
I'm still in the
butterfly.
cocoon. Shh.
You look good. Well, I'll help you out. I'll pull you out.
Yeah. I want to ask you to kind of like, because I know we're going to go into different segues here, and I hope you're comfortable with the first one we're going to get into. But like, obviously, working on Full House, I want to ask you, like, what are some of your kind of favorite memories of Full House? Like, because listen, I'm born in '91, so more than likely when I was getting into Full House, it was kind of in the later seasons, but TBS would show like reruns. So like, I'm probably watching it in like '98, '99, and being like, oh, when are they going to come out with a new episode? Right? And I'm just like not knowing that's reruns, but at the same point, it's like I dived into that show like I dived into Boy Meets World and Family Matters.
Okay.
But like, I want to ask you because I guess in a weird way, like when you asked Jaleel White about being Urkel or the line of "Did I do that?" after a while it has to get annoying. Did you ever get annoyed when people came up to you and said, like, have mercy?
Well, I did, yeah, for many
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
Yeah. But I don't anymore. But it was, look, my when I started the soap operas as we talked about, and
Yeah.
that show was, it was 30 million people were watching General Hospital Day, and it was like boom, it was just sort of blasted out there. And it was, I hate to say it was a great training ground because that sounds disrespectful to the soap actors, because it's not. I mean, it was for me because I was 18, it was my first job, and I sucked at it. They called me the sponge. I stayed too late, and they were like, John, go home. And I was just learning as much as I could. And then but I always wanted, I left early. I became very popular on there, mainly because my mom probably called them and wrote letters and stuff. But
please don't fire him. Please let him stay.
Yeah. Well, my character was supposed to die after 5 days, but the Blackie Parish.
Oh,
and
wow.
So I signed this really low end deal because I was new, and they were going to kill me off. So it was kind of 2 years, but only if they kept me. And so it was like $400 an episode, something like that, which is, and the show got very popular. And I wanted to be on a sitcom. My whole life, I dreamed of being like on a Happy Days or more, like I loved Gary Marshall and his shows. So I did, but Full House was presented like this. It was like, it's three guys, like one's a comedian, you're a rock and roller, one's a dad, and there's some kids in it.
We don't know about them. We don't know what happened to
those. The kids, who knows? But it's the three. It's a buddy. It's like Bosom Buddies. And Miller and Boyd had produced Bosom Buddies with Tom Hanks and Peter Scolari. So I said, great. And then I remember the first table read. We were in some weird hotel. And it was in the 80s still. And Jodie Sweetin, who plays Stephanie, blew the roof off the place. I mean, people couldn't stop laughing. They're still laughing for 35 years at that table read. And I remember running out to the lobby, putting a quarter in the machine, calling my agent, said, "Get me off this show. It's a kid show, and I'm going to be the kids are the stars here." But so it went on, and look, the one of the greatest things that came out of that show was obviously to me was my friendship with Bob, and we didn't like each other in the beginning. We just came from different.
Wow. Okay.
People were always shocked that we became such close friends. You look like Luke Perry right now, by the way.
Oh, thanks. I feel like that's a compliment. I'll take it as a compliment.
It is. I mean, he's passed away, but not now. You look when he was alive and healthy.
Okay, good. I was going to be like, you look like Luke Perry now. I'd be like, oh man, I gotta go check some things.
Bob Bob was more concerned about making the crew laugh and the guy pulling the cord and this guy over there. I said, put that in the show, man. And I came from more of an actor's, point of view, and I just worked with Jack Klugman, who was a genius, and so I wanted to, dig into every scene and make it. Why am I doing this? Why are we hugging 3 times? Maybe one hug,
Yeah.
So I drove Bob crazy probably too, and he drove me nuts with, But then we eventually started to admire the things we didn't like in each other.
A little bit of a touchy subject, but like,
go ahead.
Like the passing of like Bob. Like, did that ever, like, because I know sometimes like all it takes is something to just drive it back into focus of like, oh man, like, because listen, there are very few times when I will like see a news article or something that gets you really overwhelmed. And these are people that you don't really know. Like I remember reading on like a TSN update that Kobe Bryant had passed away. And at first I was kind of like, I was thinking it was a dream. Not that I'm like Kobe Bryant's best friend, but I was like, dude, this is a player that I grew up watching and now he's gone. And then like you see Betty White now, in all fairness to Betty White, like she was old, but she did live a full career. And that was still shocking to me because it was so close to her birthday, I believe.
Why was it shocking? She was almost 100.
But it was still like, because it was so close to her birthday. And then they were having this whole thing for it. And then it's almost like now she's not there for it. But like, and then I think it was maybe probably a few days after that, like I read the Bob Saget tweet about Betty White. And then it was like, now Bob's gone. And I was like, you got to be me. Like, because I was just like, we just interviewed this guy. We just had him on.
How long was it after? How long did he
it was probably like, I'd probably say maybe 8 or 9 months. Maybe that.
And it wasn't your fault, right? You didn't.
No. Although,
that's a Bob joke.
Listen. A lot of people, when they listen to that conversation, they will send me the clip of Bob saying, I don't want to die. And I'm just still like, that's not on me. It's Bob.
Oh, you said that?
Yeah, like in his clip, he says like he talks about he wanted to get back into stand-up because we were just getting out of pre-pandemic. And he's like, man, I want to get back on stand-up. I'm dying to do stand-up. I don't want to die. And I was just like, that's when people clip it and send it to me. And I'm just like, don't blame that me. It's not me.
No,
That's
of course it
Bob.
wasn't.
Like,
Of course it wasn't. But Bob, Bob. But I have a bunch of clips just from over the years where he did talk about dying, and he did talk about how he was dying. When he passed away, sorry, I'm holding it.
You did. No, that's fair. I'll join you in. I got one
There
here.
you go. When he died, for some reason, I went back to his book on tape, his audio book. And when the book came out, I don't know, 10 years ago, whatever it was, maybe longer, I read a couple of pages like, this is stupid. I'm not reading this, because it was Bob and it was just talking about and stuff.
Yeah.
But for some reason, nobody else could do it. I gravitated towards it, and I started listening to it, and mostly in the middle of the night. And I would put them on before I fell asleep, so I would hear Bob's voice. Like that should be the last thing I would want to hear while I'm sleeping, because he liked to talk. But it comforted me somehow, and I would sleep. But 2 nights or so, I would wake up and it's like, wait a minute, did he talk about hitting his head in it? No, it couldn't be. Go to sleep.
Oh, wow.
I hear it again. Wait a minute. I wake up. I remember telling my wife, I kept skipping around. I found it. He says, he jokes about it, but he says he would hate it if he died. He would hit his head in his house or something, and he hoped he was in good shape when they called 911 and the ambulance came and got him, and he died. Something about hitting his head, dying. I'm like, what the? And his daughters and Kelly, his wife, told me, after that he projected his death a lot. He talked about dying a lot.
Oh, wow.
I have Dave did a podcast like early on where he was trying to do one, and Bob and I were on there, and I have a tape of it. And at the end, Bob just talks about how he's going to die. He's going to splat. He's making these noises. He's talking about having diarrhea, all this crazy stuff. But it was, it still is such a shocker, man. And I just can't believe it. It's just too much. It's too bad. He was such a good, and we could talk about my new show a little bit if you'd like. So,
oh yeah, no, absolutely. You
but,
tell me whenever you're ready.
No, I'm kidding.
No.
But what I was going to say is, and I talked about this, is that, so he died, and, it was so sad that he didn't know how loved he was, because he didn't. I mean, he probably, even though he would puff himself up, but it was all out of insecurity. He didn't really believe that he didn't believe, and he didn't know how great he was and how loved he was, but what a talent he was, and how many people admired him, and how many lives he's changed and helped. I have so many people go, Bob, you don't know this, but Bob saved my life. My sister's life was scleroderma. Bob did this.
Yeah.
He would do these little things for people. And it was just made me so sad that he didn't really know it, And so I did an episode, the last episode of Big Shots, this season 2, where a coach friend of mine dies, and all the news comes out, and he did all this great stuff. And I go, what about my legacy? What have I done? So the girls at the end, it's graduation. And while I'm alive and while I'm here, the girls come up and say, this is how you changed my life. This is what you did for me. This is what you did for these people. People stand up. And that's the thing, that's Bob's legacy, man. We have to tell people that we love them, and that we're proud of them, and that they're, because tomorrow's never promised, as we know, as we interviewing him, and now he's gone.
I want to ask, because going into Big Shot, like I've seen bits and pieces along the way. I think, now this is my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with saying, like, one of my favorite sports movies is Coach Carter. I also like the Mighty Ducks. Mm-hmm. I feel like this is like a combo for me of, because it's Disney, mm-hmm. and you're like playing a coach in this. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's a good combo of like Coach Carter meets like the Mighty Ducks, because you're taking a team of like women, young women, mm-hmm. and like you're trying to get the best of them, but you're also trying to find your way along the way, like mm-hmm. to better yourself. Mm-hmm. But I feel like Coach Carter does that in a sense too, that movie. Right?
I don't know Coach Carter from
oh man,
from
you
Wonder
have
Woman.
To go watch Coach Carter, and then you'll probably phone Disney and be like, I can't play this role anymore.
Why? Coach Carter, who was in that?
I think Samuel L. Jackson is in Coach Carter.
Oh yeah. I didn't see it.
Okay. It's just, but I get a lot of good, like a lot of vibes from that when I was in like preteens. Yeah. And I was in basketball when I was younger.
I was gonna say you're a sports guy, so did you buy me as a coach in the little snippets that you watched at the show?
Totally. No, absolutely.
I didn't know anything about. I don't come from. My dad was an athlete, but he used to say, "You go out of your way to hate sports." I don't. I never got it. I don't have the. It's just not part of my thing. I could catch grounders, but that was I didn't like balls. I just never. Someone always had to lose too.
Yeah. What, you
But-
don't like people losing? That's how you like get the anger out, and then you go back next week, and then you want to beat that team to gain something.
Well, I can act that. I can do that.
Okay.
I went to. Do you know who Jerry West is? Do you know Jerry West?
I've heard the name. I'm not gonna lie and say like, oh yeah, I know his history,
That's good.
but
You
I've
shouldn't
heard
know.
the name. Yeah.
So this guy is a great coach. Anyway, Jerry West, and I went to visit him before I did. Someone introduced me to him, and I went down there and I said, "Hi, Mr. West. Thank you for inviting me to the rehearsal today." First of all, it's not rehearsal; it's called practice.
Oh wow. Okay.
Those aren't costumes; they're uniform. But he was great, and I studied up. But it was the scariest thing for me because I don't go to games. I don't know anything. I have one of my best friends, Roger Lodge, knows everything about basketball, so he's helped me out a lot. But it was scary trying to figure out how I would play a coach. But I think I tapped into, some of the great coaches that I studied. Bobby Knight who threw a chair.
Oh yeah. I like Big Shot because there's still the elements to me. Like now, if I'm putting it just strictly in your terms, it feels like me when I'm watching from Full House to Big Shot. This is like the evolution of like Uncle Jesse going from like, hey, there was one time that he was this like bad boy and then he gets kids, and now he's like the adult dad role. But now it's not just like him focusing on himself, because I feel like sometimes Uncle Jesse did do that. It was all about Uncle Jesse. But this is like, now it's like, oh crap, now I have all these like adolescent kids that I have to teach. But like now I'm their go-to. And there are scenes where it still kind of brings me back to the Full House moments where you're teaching them, but they're opening up to you. And then this is like a realization for your character to be like, all right, like I'm not just this coach anymore. Like they're trusting me, and I got to take this responsibility. And like, I know like in season 2, it becomes more of a less of a or and more of like, we're going to give him a layer of he is kind of a warm-hearted guy. But I do like how you kind of said he still has to have some qualities. We can't have him turn him right into a Care Bear, which I like because you still have to have evolution to the character. But yeah, if all of a sudden it's like season 2, yeah, he's no longer an asshole. He's a nice guy. But like done, it's done. Series is over.
The key is that he learns, because you don't want him to be a complete. He learns a little bit about what he did wrong. He's a guy who's kicking and screaming, going into what it means to be a modern man, really, and let this machismo. It really does shine a light on the inequality of women's sports versus men's sports. He talks about the beauty of women's basketball, that they play a better game, more interesting game.
Yeah.
But then he sticks his foot in his ear the next time. Dave Coulier from Full House, he plays hockey and played hockey.
We've been trying to get Dave on just to say it, but Dave is like very hard to get.
Harder than me?
Yeah, apparently.
He'll go. He'll do anything.
You know what, Stamos? Reach out to Dave and be like, you know what? Tobin has gone 2 for 2. We need Dave.
Let's see if we can get him on FaceTime. You know what? This is good. Let me see if I can get him. I talked to him earlier. I met Dave. Meet Tobin.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Tobin.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm here in Detroit.
Well, that's good. Like, I have a Detroit Red Wings room set up here, so like, hopefully you can join this podcast at some point so we can talk about it.
I would love to.
Yeah, I'm sure Dave would be great for you guys. You could talk. But I used to go on these. Dave would do these celebrity hockey games, and it would be like half really great old pro hockey guys, and then celebrities. And he would bring me out to be like a coach or some kind of thing. I knew nothing about it. But tell him a story about one of those, Dave.
Well, we played against the 72 Boston Bruins Cup team.
Okay.
So they had Esposito, Hodge, Orr, Cheevers, Derek Sanderson was on the bench, Busick, Cashman. It was everybody. And it was sold out at the Boston Garden, the old Garden. And so John's our coach, and there's a big buildup. Esposito comes out, and everybody's going crazy. So now they know Bobby Orr, number 4, is coming out. And the place is going absolutely crazy because Bobby Orr hadn't been on the ice sheet there at the Boston Garden since he retired because he had some knee problems and major surgeries. So the place was electric. So they introduced, and I'm standing next to Gordie Howe on one side of me on the blue line, and Keith Magnuson from the Chicago Blackhawks, tough guy from the Hawks, was a sweetheart. He's on my other side. And those two guys are just looking at Bobby Orr skating on the ice, and Magnuson has tears in his eyes, and it's an emotional moment. And the place just gives Bobby Orr a standing ovation that just will not stop. It's literally 5 minutes of people just going crazy. So I skate over to the bench, and John looks over at me and goes, Who's this Orr kid?
Well,
I go, that's Bobby Orr. Okay, he's up at that time. Until that time, I think before Nicholas Lidstrom, he had, I believe, 7 or 8 Norris trophies. He was the best defenseman, a guy who revolutionized the game of hockey as a rushing high scoring defenseman.
mhm.
And John just had no.
Well, I thought the hockey players were supposed to be so tough, and here's this big guy crying over here, this big guy crying over here. I go, what's so tough about these? I could, you know.
So, Coulier, are you surprised that this guy gets a role of Big Shot, which is like a sports TV show kind of thing, and then this guy's just, don't know nothing squat about hockey, and here he is now being a coach?
Well, that's where his acting ability.
Yeah, there you go.
Totally.
If he wasn't a great actor, we'd be having a different conversation.
He was talking about Bob, Dave. He had him on the show, and Bob was talking about dying or don't kill me, or how he was. And I was just telling Tobin about your podcast that you had, and Bob was talking about dying, remember, and how the noises it would make and everything.
Yeah, he goes, this is the sound of me, the last sound I make right before I die.
Yeah, we miss him. All right, I love you, Dave.
Love you too.
And did you get your wife the medicine for the COVID?
Yes, she's good now. So she sends her love.
Okay. Bye-bye. Say bye.
Bye.
See you, Dave.
See you, buddy. Love you. See, there you go, Tobin. I can make all your
Well,
dreams come
I
true.
appreciate that, because it's like most times you reach out to PR, and it's like sometimes
Well, who
it's
did you
like,
reach- Okay,
I'm
well,
I'm not sure. I honestly, it's
I
like,
think you guys would be good together because you both
Yeah.
want to talk about hockey, and
yeah.
I don't. Well, how are we going to celebrate your birthday? You going to go out and have an oxtail or whatever you guys eat there?
I think I'm just,
Retail?
man, like, honestly, I think I'll probably watch like a Detroit Red Wings game, get some Boston pizza, play
Nice.
some PS5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, think of me.
Yeah, I will create John Stamos in NHL 23 and just be like, get this guy 20 goals, or at least 10.
Yeah, give me some.
That's going to do it for this episode of Tobin Tonight. Our thanks to John Stamos for coming on to the show. Remember, you can find past, present, and future episodes on TobinTonight.com, Spotify, and iTunes. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and leave a comment or two. For Tobin and myself, this is Jacob saying thank you for listening and good night.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.